Wonderful to be with you. Tell us a bit of your story, as much as you'd like to share, where it began and where you've been and what you've done, and you're the best.
Should have something when I was born.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
I grew up. April 8th, 1920. On the Lower East Side. I was the youngest of 4 children. I grew up in a melting pot. It was the 20s. And then I went on to, I went to Seward Park High School, Lower East Side. When I graduated in 38, I went to college at night for 1.5 years to City College. At that time, it was if you were not matriculated, you paid $3. It was $9 a credit, and you were able to take 2 courses. In other words, about $18. Well, I did it for 1.5 years, and here my friends were out, enjoying themselves here. I got a job working in the office in corporate clothes, and rushing, and the office was right in the city, and rushing back to go get a bite and then go to school was, a bit too much. Anyway, I thought at that time. Then the war came. I was drafted. I served a little over 2 years until peace. I met my wonderful wife in 1949. It was a blind date, and it turned out to be the event of my life. I had a wonderful marriage. My wife lived to the age of 94. We were married almost 70 years. Unfortunately, we had 1 child, a wonderful son. Unfortunately, I lost him this June, to cancer. My wife, Edith, and my son Alan must be looking down and quelling. I'm talking about the synagogue at the age of 105. How we get here, they always ask me, what is my life experience? You're supposed to be a genius if you reach this age. It's no genius. It's not up to us, it's up to God. Not only that, whatever you learn, it's life experiences. That's why you say when you get older, you get smarter. It's life experiences. If you're a person, an ordinary person, I should say, with a little perception, you learn. You learn from your experiences in life. I had a wonderful marriage, and because, thank God, we never thought about money. My wife was in business, and we both made nice livings. So we had made up that if we have an argument, and sometimes, men and women, they're not cows in pastures. They ever tell you that they never argue, it's not true.
Or there's something wrong.
Or there's something wrong, because they're not telling you the truth. The deers and the darlings, you don't know what goes on behind it. But my wife and I had made up that no matter what argument we had, we go to bed, we kiss and make up, never go to bed angry. In 70 years, only once that I violated it. And the next day, we both looked and said, what did we argue about? Sometimes it's so silly, so foolish. But especially to the young people, I say, do that and you'll have a wonderful life. What else can I tell you? You can ask me any questions you like.
It's making me think of part of what you said of, you know, when you're blessed to be around so long that you learn from life experience. I was thinking of the part in Groundhog Day where he knows all of these things because he's been there forever, and he says, who knows, maybe the real God doesn't have any tricks, maybe he's just been around so long he knows everything. So to glean wisdom from wherever we can, and that is very much in line with our tradition that says, who is the one who's wise, Ezehu Chacham, for Pirkei Avot, and says, Halomed Mikol Adam, the person who learns from every person. And I would expand that, as you've verified, to every experience that we have. There's something to learn.
Absolutely.
There's something to gain, even positive experiences, negative, whatever. There's always something to learn and internalize and take with you going forward.
The trouble in aging, I found, is that as you get older, you sort of, your mind closes off. You become more narrow, and you can't permit that. You're living in a world that's changing constantly, and you've got to learn to adjust to this changing world in order to get along. I found that the only thing is, my wife took to the computer right away. I found it difficult, and I sort of shut it off. And I feel like an infant when it comes to anything to do with the computer age, you know, when all that went on. So I was determined, I'm going to try to keep up. So now I have Alexa. I'm with AI, artificial intelligence.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that's, as you shared just now and shared with Craig and me last week, that part of the trick, if you know, you said, don't ask me what the secret of life is of how to get here, but I think you stumbled upon at least one of the pieces of wisdom is that you have to be open to adjust and to keep adapting and go with it.
Absolutely.
Especially with technology, but not just with technology.
With life itself.
With life itself, that it moves so quickly, right. And you need to be able to do the best you can to move with it. And that's how you're going to be able to stick around.
Otherwise, you're lost.
Otherwise, you're lost, and lost pretty quickly, I'm sure,
yeah,
if not able to go through.
You have to keep up. As they say, you have to go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Exactly. So I have a question about if you, in your mind, what are some perhaps historical or watershed moments in American history and world history that are just have stuck with you, perhaps as inflection points in the world and progression of things in the world, or things that are particularly poignant or meaningful for you?
Well, the world has moved on so fast. You know, many years ago, things went slow. After World War II, everything changed. Especially with the Jews. Years ago, the Jews would go to divorce circuit up into the Catskills. That was their world. In the summer and the winter, you had wonderful hotels. And after World War II, when the soldiers came home, they discovered a different world. They discovered Florida, which was restricted. I didn't know this until after World War II. A Jew couldn't buy any real estate above 5th Street in Palisades. They were restricted. I never knew that. My honeymoon, we went to Florida for the first time. And this was 1950 March. And as we come, you know, on Palisades Avenue, which was the main drag at that time, and you had these on the right side, which was the ocean side, you had lovely hotels, nice places. On the left-hand side, you had sort of 2-3-story hotels with I don't know what you call it, like a piazza, not a piazza, where you had the rocking chairs, you know, lined up, and that's up to fishing. That's where the older people used to go for a vacation. They had those hotels there, and they had the Palisades, you know. Then everything changed. People discovered cruises and European travel, etc. The Jews' life was broadened completely.
It's interesting to think about World War II as a
catalyst.
Yeah, as a catalyst. But I mean, I know I'm especially interested in what you're talking about with the Borscht Belt and the Catskills and how from what I've learned in recent years about kind of the philosophy and mentality and the approach to building and establishing those places was having safe havens for Jews and Jewish families to be able to go into vacation. And one thing that I learned somewhat recently that really struck me and stuck with me was this concept of there's food here. I don't mean that glibly. That might sound silly. I really don't mean it that way. And that you're not going to go hungry, right? In this mentality after World War II and after the Shoah, after the Holocaust, of not, of starvation for our people in huge numbers. And that part of the mentality of places like Grossinger's and the Nevele and these other places and the Concord and the Catskills was, you're not going to go hungry while you stay here. There will be food for you. And that when I learned that a few years ago, that really stuck with me. Certainly as an example, I guess, of this inflection point for Jews in America and all over the world.
Yes. As a point, I had Gentile friends, and we took them to the Catskills. They couldn't get over it, the entertainment, the food, because if you ever went to any of the Gentile hotels, which I have visited, and that was the other side of the Catskills. And the food is, it's available. They used to serve a feast every day and a choice you couldn't imagine, and the entertainment, which was tops.
Yeah.
In the better hotels.
You had to make it in the Borscht Belt before you could make it onto the New York and the kind of the more, I guess, mainstream circuits at the time. That was, from what I've learned, that was kind of the test. If you could do well up in the Catskills, then you could take it anywhere, right? Any Youngman and the like, right?
Oh, that's where they all graduated from.
Right.
A great deal of the Broadway actors, comics, and so forth. They did their shtick in the Catskills.
That was their testing ground.
That was right.
What else have you learned over the years that we can learn from as well, that perhaps is lost on some of us? I do like go with the flow is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, that's one thing. You can't close your mind. You have to keep an open mind. And that's all. I met seniors. They're seniors. They remain seniors. I mean, that's it. That's their old age, but you can't do that if you want to live a productive life, no matter what age.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't work. I work, by the way, you have to be, I believe, I don't believe in retirement per se. My wife and I, we were antique dealers. That was our second career. And till 94, I retired. My wife was 5 years younger. And the reason we retired is because my sight was going and my wife's sight was going. So we couldn't buy, especially jewelry. We dealt a lot of jewelry and better stuff. And you have to have your eyesight. So keep active, no matter what you do. I mean, I had a cousin that retired at 55 and loved it. He played pinochle. He was a golfer, a tennis player, and he loved it. He passed away in the 90s, but retirement was his thing. He had a successful life, but at 55 he retired. Now, I know other people, I couldn't retire at 55 or 65. I had to do something, and my wife was the same way. It's up to the individual. But whatever you do, when you reach an age, it's not up here in your mind. You have to make it so that not a rigid digit. It's how you feel comfortable. You want to retire, don't want to retire at 65, don't. Keep on doing what you're doing or volunteer. I have a wonderful aide here. His name is Bob. And he's my friend. This is a man who's 81, who retired from business, and he does volunteer work, like for me, and teaches children, goes to a school, volunteers. There's so much good you can do volunteering for seniors like me. I have wonderful aides. I couldn't exist without them. So you have such wonderful people who have retired and do this volunteer work.
So there's, sorry, go ahead. You gonna say something else?
No, I think, in other words, don't be idle.
Yeah. Yeah, that whether it's in a form of retirement from a profession or continuing in a profession, but to be active, to use your body and mind.
That's the only way.
That is, yeah.
That's the only way.
And keeping an open mind, I think, is one of these things that we say, and a lot of us like to think and believe that we do. But I think that all the more so in the nation and world we live in today, that there needs to be more open-mindedness. That there's a fine line to be had between having your own beliefs and your principles and believing that they're important and having them as your kind of central moral compass, at the same time as being open to different stories and different backgrounds and different approaches. And I think the closed-mindedness that you speak of, if you will, as we're coming up to Passover Seders, is a plague on our nation and our world that we need to be better at. We need to be better at being truly open-minded to each other's backgrounds and ideas and passions and philosophies.
Absolutely. And as you get older, you have to keep that in view. That being a Jew is not only a thing, there are other people besides Jews. And you have to be mindful that they have their ideals. And you have to get along with all kinds of people, whether they're Asian, whether they're yellow, brown, red, white. I have found black. I have found wonderful people in every one of those categories, in every one of those different religions. And you have to keep an open mind. You can't be closed-minded. And that's what I believe. You can have a wonderful life.
Because if we feel and believe that our ways and our beliefs are the only way or the right way, then by definition, we're not being open-minded. We're closing ourselves off to other people's connections to what is meaningful and spiritual to them. So an important lesson for all of us. And you mentioned being a Jew. I wanted to conclude with asking you a question about what being Jewish means to you and how your Jewish identity has been a part of your life.
Definitely. Being a Jew means to me, besides keeping whatever ideas, whatever you're brought up with, whatever you're taught, to also have an open mind. Remember, God created all these people, not only the Jews. We're the chosen people, but he chose all the others. And that's what you have to realize. You can't be I don't scorn the ultra-Orthodox, but their closed-mindedness is not what Jewry is all about.
That's beautiful. That I mean, if Judaism teaches us anything, right, is that there are many opinions and many perspectives, and that's why the Talmud is volumes and volumes and volumes, because it's different folks offering different perspectives, and the amalgamation, if you will, of all of it is where the knowledge is. When we learn something from someone, there's a blessing that we're supposed to say, and I'm forgetting the exact language, but the gist of it is, thank you, God, for giving me a chelek, a piece of the knowledge of the whole, right? To learn something is to learn just a piece of the larger picture. And to finish up on what you mentioned just now, that fundamental to our tradition, at the base of our tradition, is the fact that every single person was created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God.
Right.
Every person, right? Not every Jew, not every this or that. Every human being was created in the image of God. And how it sounds like for you, the beautiful piece is connecting that with being open-minded and seeing or striving to see that Tselem Elohim, that image of God, in whoever you are sitting with, whoever you are spending time with.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts to share? It's been beautiful, been wonderful. We want to wish you, we know it's a couple days early, but we want to wish you a Yom Huledet Sameach. Please join with me. We'll sing in Hebrew and in English. Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Harry. Happy birthday to you.